Well, my final question is this, and I'm saving it for the final question for a very good reason. When you and I did an interview a while back, and we talked about the murder of Michael Jordan's father, and there was always the rumor that it had something to do with his gambling, and you felt there was some sort of connection between this event and Jordan's gambling. I interviewed Daniel Green, who was one of the two guys convicted of Michael Jordan's murder, who's actually doing life in prison right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's two guys involved. He said, the guy who I interviewed said that the other guy killed him and then went to him to help get rid of the body. The other guy saying they were both together and Daniel Green was the one who pulled the trigger. Essentially, these are the only two witnesses in the whole situation, and they got caught because they were driving around in the Lexus and were making phone calls with the car phone,
Mm-hmm.
and other things that pretty much guaranteed them life in prison. Now, when I asked him, did Michael Jordan's father's murder have anything to do with gambling or the mafia or anything else like that, he said absolutely not. He said there's absolutely no truth in that. This guy had pulled over on the side of the road. He went to sleep. The motel he was next to was a drug spot, was a place where drugs were bought and sold. There was prostitution and so forth. There was a lot of illegal activity. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Someone saw an easy robbery that turned into a murder, and that's what happened. It had nothing to do with Jordan's gambling. When I tell you this, what do you think?
I listened to that also with Michael. I watched which I thought was a great documentary. I watched it, and I have to believe that the guy is telling the truth. You got to remember, back in the day, I was around, the NBA, and I was doing a lot of sports things at that time, and there was a lot of rumbling, and there was not a lot, but there were a few people that allegedly were in the know that was saying it had something to do with Michael Jordan's gambling. I think that's been debunked. I don't think that's true at this point in time, but it certainly was being talked about at that time because Michael had that gambling issue and so on and so forth. But I would tend to believe what we're hearing now. And look, these guys, I guess, would have no reason to. It wasn't mob related. I don't believe that. I've never said that. But I did hear that it has something to do with his gambling at the time. But again, rumors always abound when it comes to somebody like that. So I would have to say that, that was incorrect information at the time.
Right. Just to put it in perspective, these guys were 18 at the time.
Yeah.
They drove around in the stolen Lexus for a week.
Right.
And the guy that I interviewed ended up making a rap video at his house wearing the jewelry from Jordan's father, the watch and the championship ring that Jordan gave him.
Wow.
In a video that they found. So these were not, criminal masterminds that are orchestrating this retaliation for gambling debts. These are two dumb teenagers who were living in trailer parks at the time that got caught up killing someone who was extremely important and now are doing life in prison because of it.
Well, what you just said, described certainly puts a lid on it for me. It wasn't mob related. Mobsters do silly things at times, but not something like that. So, yeah, and I'm sorry if I even inferred that at the time, but that's what I heard. There was rumors going around and, everything was heated at that time with Michael and people were just speculating, but I'm glad to hear that. Well, I'm not glad to hear what happened, but I'm glad to hear it had nothing to do with Michael because that would be a tough thing to carry around in life.
Well, look, I've interviewed everyone around the murder of Tupac, another mythical figure, just like Jordan. And for years, the story was, Suge had him killed. The government had him killed. The cop switched the bodies and so forth. And I've interviewed not only people that were there with Tupac during the murder, but I interviewed Keefe D, who was in the car that killed Tupac. And they laid out all the events, and all the events have always matched up to the guy they beat up in the casino came back with a gun and killed him, which was the obvious choice. But to this day, people don't believe that. No, it was really Suge. Suge killed him so he could own his record masters, even though here's a guy that's 3 times the size of Tupac in a car. The car's randomly sprayed up from front to back. And you mean to say that you put a hit out on someone when you're sitting in the car with them? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. And just so you know, Suge's lawyer is my lawyer, and I've known him for 35, 40 years now. And I don't believe Suge had anything to do with that.
Wait, are you talking about David Kenner?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I know David for a long time. He's a great guy. I love him. And I don't believe Suge had anything to do with that.
Okay, because David Kenner was considered the mob lawyer when he went over to death row.
Well, he I don't know if he was a mob lawyer, but we trusted him and he represented a lot of guys. And until today, I mean, I spoke to David yesterday. So he's representing me on a legitimate deal, a contract that I'm doing. So yeah, he's a great guy.
All right. Well, I need a David Kenner interview. I'm gonna hit you up for a favor here.
David is terrific. You'll love him. Oh,
I know.
Have you ever interviewed him?
I've never even gotten a contact on him before. He's such a shadowy figure.
Yes.
I feel.
He's a great guy. I don't know if he'll agree to it, but I'll talk to him about it.
How does he feel? I mean, he wasn't Suge's lawyer at the point where Suge got his 28 years.
No, I don't believe so.
Did you ever talk to him about how he feels about his former business partner being in prison for possibly the rest of his life?
Not in depth, not in detail, no. But like I said, I know David a long time, and as a result of that, I don't believe Suge had anything to do with Tupac. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, I completely agree.